There's something I hear a lot from folks our age. Where do you even meet new people at this stage of life? Maybe you felt it too, like your social circle has gotten smaller over the years, or the usual places just don't seem to spark those interesting, meaningful connections anymore. But here's the thing, the world is still full of vibrant, engaging people just waiting to cross paths with you. You just have to know where to look. Now, I'm not talking about crowded bars or noisy nightclubs. Those days might be behind us, unless that's your thing, in which case, more power to you. I'm talking about unexpected, everyday places where interesting people naturally gather, places you might not have considered before. And the best part? These spots aren't just great for meeting new friends, they're also perfect for finding that special someone if you're open to romance. So, let's dive in. I'll share a few of these hidden social gems, and by the end, I think you'll see just how many opportunities are out there if you know where to look. First up, local classes and workshops. Now, I know what you might be thinking, I'm not going back to school at my age. But hear me out. These aren't the stuffy, high-pressure classrooms of your youth. Think cooking classes at the community center, watercolor workshops at the art gallery, or even a beginner's pottery session. These places are magnets for curious, lively people who want to learn something new, just like you. And here's the magic, when you're all focused on the same activity, conversation flows naturally. No awkward small talk, just shared excitement over that slightly lopsided bowl you just made. I remember a friend of mine, Linda, who signed up for a memoir writing class on a whim. She figured she'd jot down a few stories for her grandkids, but what she didn't expect was to meet Jim, a widower with a knack for storytelling and the most infectious laugh. Fast forward a year, and they're not just classmates, they're traveling together, working on a book, and, well, let's just say Linda's grandkids aren't the only ones enjoying those stories anymore. Now, if hands-on creativity isn't your thing, how about volunteering? This is one of the most overlooked ways to meet incredible people after 60. Whether it's helping out at the local library, serving meals at a soup kitchen, or even joining a community garden project, volunteering puts you shoulder to shoulder with folks who share your values. And let me tell you, nothing bonds people faster than working together for a good cause. Take my neighbor, Frank. After retiring, he felt a bit adrift until he started driving for Meals on Wheels. Not only did he find purpose in delivering meals to homebound seniors, but he also met Martha, another volunteer who shared his love of old jazz records. Now, their weekly deliveries are followed by coffee and swapping vinyl finds. And here's one more to get you started, specialty hobby groups. This could be anything from a birdwatching club to a vintage car restoration meetup. The key is to find something that genuinely interests you, because when you're passionate about something, it shines through, and that's what draws people in. I'll never forget the story of a viewer named Carol, who joined a gardening club just to get tips for her roses. She ended up meeting a fellow enthusiast named Henry, and let's just say their conversations bloomed into something much deeper. Now, their biggest debate is whether hybrid teas are better than heirlooms, but I think they're both just happy to have someone to share the garden with. So, what do all these places have in common? They're not about trying to meet people, they're about doing things you enjoy and letting the connections happen naturally. And the best part? Even if romance isn't on your radar, you're still expanding your world with fascinating new friends. Now, I've got a few more surprising spots to share with you, places you might walk past every day without realizing their potential. But we'll get to those next. For now, why not think about which of these ideas resonates with you? Maybe there's a class you've been curious about, or a cause you'd love to support. The first step is simply showing up, the rest just might surprise you. You know, one of the beautiful things about getting older is that we start to see the world differently. The little moments, the shared smiles, the chance conversations, become so much more meaningful. And sometimes, the most unexpected places turn out to be where we meet the most fascinating people. Now, let's talk about something you might not expect, local theater and live performances. And no, I don't just mean sitting in the audience, though that's a great place to strike up a conversation during intermission. I'm talking about getting involved. Community theaters are always looking for volunteers, whether it's helping with sets, ushering, or even trying out for a role if you've got a flair for the dramatic. There's something about the energy of live theater that brings people together in a way few other things can. Take my friend, Robert. He'd never acted a day in his life, but at 68, he decided to audition for a small role in his town's production of Our Town. He figured it would be a fun way to step out of his comfort zone. What he didn't expect was to meet Elaine, the play's director, a sharp, witty woman with a passion for storytelling. By opening night, Robert wasn't just delivering lines. He and Elaine were sharing dinners and planning trips to see Broadway shows. All because he took a chance on something new. And speaking of stepping out of your comfort zone, here's another gem: dance classes. Now, before you say, "Oh, I've got 2 left feet." Trust me, that's the whole point. Whether it's ballroom, line dancing, or even salsa, dance classes are a fantastic way to meet people because everyone is a little awkward at first. That shared vulnerability? It's like a shortcut to friendship or more. I'll never forget the email I got from a viewer named Patricia. She'd signed up for a beginner's swing dance class on a whim, mostly to get some exercise. On her first night, she was paired with a gentleman named Charles, who was equally unsure of himself. They spent the whole class laughing at their missteps, and by the end of the session, they were laughing over coffee instead. Now, 2 years later, they're still dancing together, both on and off the floor. Now, here's a spot you might not have considered: bookstores and libraries. But not just any section, I'm talking about book clubs and author events. There's something about discussing a great story that reveals who people really are, their passions, their sense of humor, even their vulnerabilities. And the best part? You don't have to be a literary expert to join. Most clubs are just happy to have someone who loves to chat about books. A woman named Margaret wrote to me about how she'd been attending the same mystery book club for years without thinking much of it, until one month, a new member named Walter joined. He had a habit of playing devil's advocate about the whodunit plots, which drove Margaret crazy at first. But soon, their lively debates became the highlight of her month. Fast forward a year, and they've started their own 2-person book club, meeting weekly for dinner and discussion. Now, let's talk about travel groups. And no, I don't mean those hectic, jam-packed tours where you're herded from one landmark to the next. I'm talking about smaller, interest-based trips, like a photography tour of Tuscany, a hiking group in the Rockies, or even a culinary retreat in New Orleans. Travel has a way of stripping away pretenses. When you're sharing an adventure, whether it's marveling at a sunset or figuring out how to order coffee in a foreign language, bonds form fast. One of my favorite stories came from a man named George, who'd always wanted to see the Canadian Rockies but didn't want to go alone. He signed up for a senior hiking group, figuring he'd at least get some fresh air. What he didn't expect was to meet Helen, a fellow nature lover with a contagious zest for life. By the end of the trip, they'd already planned their next adventure together. The thread running through all these stories? It's about showing up, not with an agenda, but with an open heart. The places I've mentioned aren't about hunting for connections, they're about doing things that light you up and discovering that others are drawn to that light. And guess what? There are still more unexpected spots where sparks fly after 60. But we'll save those for next time. For now, think about this: which of these ideas makes you smile just imagining it? Maybe it's the thought of twirling across a dance floor or debating the ending of a mystery novel. Whatever it is, that's your clue to follow. Because the best connections happen when you're simply being yourself and enjoying the ride. Isn't it wonderful how life keeps surprising us? Just when we think we've seen it all, we stumble upon a new place, a new experience, or better yet, a new person who makes everything feel fresh again. That's what I want to leave you with today, the reminder that meaningful connections aren't just possible after 60, they're waiting for you in the most delightful, unexpected corners of your world. Let's start with one you might walk past every day without a second thought: your local coffee shop. Now, I'm not talking about rushing in, grabbing your latte, and rushing out. I mean the neighborhood spots where people actually sit down, the ones with cozy chairs and bulletin boards plastered with community events. These places are social hubs in disguise. Try this. Next time you go, leave your book or newspaper at home. Instead, sit at the counter or a communal table. Smile at the person next to you. Comment on their interesting hat or the book they're reading. You'd be amazed how many friendships, and yes, romances, have started with something as simple as, "That looks delicious, what did you order?" A viewer named Arthur wrote to me about how he'd been going to the same cafe every morning for years, always sitting alone with his crossword. One rainy Tuesday, the place was packed, and a lovely woman named Irene asked to share his table. Turns out, she was a crossword fanatic too. That was 5 years ago. Now they do the Sunday puzzle together over blueberry scones, and last I heard, Arthur's working up the courage to ask her something much more important than *7 down. Asterisk. Here's another spot that's ripe with possibility: outdoor fitness groups. Now, before you think, "Oh, I'm not the athletic type," hear me out. I'm talking about low-key activities like morning walking clubs, Tai Chi in the park, or even beginner pickleball. These groups tend to be more about camaraderie than competition. There's something about moving your body in the fresh air that loosens people up. Suddenly, you're not just exercising, you're laughing about your shaky backhand or cheering each other on as you reach the top of the hill. Take my cousin Marjorie. At 72, she joined a Silver Sneakers walking group mainly to get her doctor off her back. What she didn't expect was to meet Bill, a retired teacher with a killer sense of humor who always brought extra sunscreen to share. Their walks got longer and longer, and now? Let's just say they've logged enough miles together to have circled the neighborhood and each other's hearts several times over. Now, here's one you might not have considered: lectures and cultural events at your local college or community center. Many universities offer free or low-cost talks on everything from astronomy to zoology, and they're often packed with curious, engaged people. Arrive early, linger afterward, and you'll find no shortage of interesting folks to chat with. A shared fascination with Renaissance art or the future of space travel can be the start of something beautiful. I'll never forget the story of a woman named Evelyn who attended a lecture series on jazz history just to fill her Tuesday evenings. During the candé, she struck up a conversation with the gentleman next to her about Ella Fitzgerald. Turns out, he'd been a jazz musician in his younger days. That conversation led to coffee, which led to him playing piano for her in his sunroom, which led to, well, let's just say Evelyn now has a permanent front row seat at his weekly jam sessions. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought: the world is still your oyster, it just might look different than it did at 30 or 40. The places we've talked about, from pottery studios to park benches, aren't just locations, they're opportunities disguised as ordinary moments. The secret isn't about going somewhere new, it's about seeing familiar places with new eyes. So here's your challenge this week: pick one spot from these videos, maybe the bookstore cafe you always walk past, or that community ed class you've been meaning to try, and show up. Not with expectations, but with openness. Strike up one conversation with a stranger. You might just meet a new friend, or someone who makes your heart skip a beat. And when you do, I'd love to hear about it. Share your story in the comments. Nothing makes me happier than hearing about your adventures. If you found this helpful, give the video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips on living your most vibrant life after 60. Remember, your next great connection could be just around the corner, or right there in your favorite coffee shop, waiting for you to say hello. Here's to your next chapter being the most exciting one yet.